Hey, it's Amy. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a slightly different video than what I usually do, where I'm not the main focus, but my husband is. My husband Liam ran the Gaspesia Ultra 100 in June, and then today I want to talk to him about how his race went, how his training went, the whole race experience, if he would run another ultramarathon, and so on. But first, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button and the bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. So let's talk to Liam about his experience with the Gaspesia Ultra 100 race weekend. Walking to your fate. You ready?
I hope so.
Look at you go. Hello, Liam.
You don't want to sit all over the place to stretch your legs.
Thank you, Liam, for being on my YouTube channel and in my video today. You were like the star of the show.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, since most of the people don't actually really know you, they've probably seen glimpses of you in videos, but can you talk to us about like your running history? Like, have you done an ultra before? What have you done?
So this was my first ultra marathon. The longest run I'd done before this was just a 60-kilometer run that I did for fun. And then other than that, I've done 3 full marathons, a couple half marathons, and yeah, I guess I've sort of started taking running more seriously like a year and a half ago. And then before then it was just a couple times a week, 10 or 12 kilometers just to get out for an easy run. Which is still pretty good.
Okay, well, now that it's been pretty much a month since the ultramarathon, how do you feel?
I feel good now. I mean, besides us being sick. But I mean, up until before getting sick, I was feeling great. I think I had sort of fully recovered within like 3 weeks. I was feeling like I was back to ready to hit workouts hard.
Yeah, that's pretty good, especially for, well, it was longer than a marathon, so. But you felt like the recovery was slightly different than a marathon recovery, right?
Yeah, I found that the sort of immediate period right after the ultra was worse. So I guess 2 or 3 days after felt really bad, and it was more like my whole body ached. But I found myself recovering really within a week I was ready to get back at it. Whereas after marathons, it's taken a week and a half, 2 weeks before I'm really ready to get going running again.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It wasn't just running, and we can talk about that in a second. It was maybe less running than you had wished. But I guess I didn't really say the distance you were doing, or you had signed up for the 100K race? The 100K distance,
so officially it was 106 kilometers.
Oh, 106, okay.
Yeah.
And then you ended up running
82 kilometers.
Which is still, I can't even imagine 82 kilometers, but yeah, okay. So we can maybe talk about that, what happened, but first let's talk about nice things. What was your favorite thing about the race?
Well, other than...
Was there any favorite stuff?
Other than spending hours in the car with you, the best part was definitely the first part of the race, where the trails were a bit wider, a bit nicer, and so although there was like a lot of climbing, the descents were really fun, and you could really run comfortably and quite quickly without a lot of effort, and so that was a lot of fun, and everyone was still packed together at that point, so I eventually found myself in a group of like 4 or 5 of us, and we kind of hung together for maybe an hour or so, and that was fun, just like, you know, hiking hard up the climbs and running the downhills and sort of using each other to pace each other and keep each other company. And the views from the top of the climbs were incredible. We were looking like right over the Gaspesia Peninsula and onto the ocean, so it was really, really nice. And the Persei rock. Also,
we'll give you an elevation profile of this race, because I don't know if you like actually understand the elevation gain of this race, and Liam will probably talk about it, but yeah, it's bonkers. Like,
yeah, the second climb was pretty crazy.
Okay, so we talked about your favorite part of the race and what you liked about it. Now let's talk about maybe what was not your favorite part of this race.
Well, I think the least favorite part was right before I saw you and dropping out. And I had sort of the aid station before, I had made my mind up for sure. I'm dropping out, and I phoned you, but then I was like, oh, it's only another 10-12 kilometers to this other aid station, which was one of the big ones where you had the bag drop. So I thought I could make it there. I thought I could make it there easily, but it turned out being a lot longer than I had remembered, because the course was in out and back. So things seemed a lot longer on the way back. So this last portion was definitely the hardest, and it was when like we had gotten some like 2 big downfalls of rain, so I was soaking wet, and then the temperatures started dropping as we went into night, and so it was getting to about, I think it was about 10 degrees Celsius, and when you're soaking wet, 10 degrees Celsius feels like pretty cold.
Yeah, he was like shaking when I picked him up. He was so cold. It was not good.
Yeah, so at that point I was over it, and this long section, it was like looking at the elevation profile, I thought the middle section, it looked quite flat, and I was like, oh great, all this section that I can run, but it was actually a whole bunch of really steep ascents and descents, just really short, so it was impossible to build up any sort of momentum. You're just kind of like going up and down over and over again.
I would hate that. I just want to run. Like, that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, it was so hard to get going. And so then doing this in the dark, freezing cold, and it just, like, each kilometer seemed like it took forever. So that was definitely my least favorite part of the race.
How many stations did they have throughout the race?
Like
fueling and food?
Yeah, there was, well, two main aid stations, like 2 big aid stations with the drop bags, but one you got on the way out and
3.
on the way back.
Okay.
Yeah, so that equaled sort of 3. And then in between those, there was like 1 or 2.
Okay, not as many as I would think. Okay, so you had to like he had to pack a drop bag or 3 drop bags and figure out, you know, what was going to go in each. And they had, each ultra is different, but mostly they have like a list of things that you have to have. And they even like checked his bag or drop bag or his vest to make sure he had on it to do the race. Like, it was required, like I think, what was some of the required stuff like?
you had to have like extra nutrition. You had to have at least the ability to carry a liter of water.
Oh, yes.
And I actually had a liter and a half room, so I was carrying, most of the time I was carrying a liter of water leaving aid stations, but at the hot peak of the day I actually filled up another one, so I had a liter and a half. And you needed like a emergency survival blanket, you needed a lighter, you needed some bandages or some sort of first aid things as
A
well.
waterproof jacket.
Yeah, a waterproof jacket,
yeah.
And a toque. I think you needed mittens too.
Yeah, we threw them in,
Yeah.
yeah. So you had the list of stuff you needed, but there's also stuff you could add extra. Is there anything that you might change in the next ultra? Like if you did an ultra again, would you have different things in your drop bags?
Yeah, I think I sort of overloaded on things. Some things I didn't need. And also I didn't want to spend too much time at these aid stations. I did change my socks at the halfway point, which helped, but it was really difficult for me to get the shoes off because they were caked in mud.
Yeah, he was real muddy. It was bad.
So I was thinking one thing I might experiment with is those, what are they called? The elastic laces?
Lock laces or like Nathan lock laces or something. I think like triathletes use those a lot, like so you can just slip your shoes on, but that's smart. That makes sense.
Yeah, because it was really difficult for me to untie my shoes and then get them tied back. So I think those like lock laces would have made that a lot easier.
Didn't you say you wanted maybe another change, like a complete change of clothes in case you did get wet? Like you mentioned that, I guess I would, or another waterproof jacket, or Yeah,
I think I would have needed, in order to keep going, a complete fresh change of dry clothes and a towel, which it's difficult because I only own one waterproof running jacket, and so but I think to keep going I would have needed a completely fresh one because mine was soaked through.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, it was kind of tough though because when it got cold, like I was wet and fine when it was warmer throughout the day, but then when the temperature dropped, I put on the coat, but I was still wet underneath. So it's kind of hard figuring that out.
How did you feel like your fueling went? Were you pretty successful, or did you feel successful about your fueling? Because I know that could be an issue with ultras, is GI issues. So how did that go?
Yeah, so I relied mostly on the goo gels. I also had some tailwind in the water bottles, and that worked really well for me. I don't know, I think I would have been fine doing 100 kilometers on that, but going further, I might have needed to start relying on more solid food. I did have a lot of watermelon at the aid stations.
And Pepsi.
Yeah, and Pepsi. Lots of cans of Pepsi. Wish they had Coke, but they only had Pepsi.
I'm glad Pepsi's better.
But yeah, Pepsi was huge, just to drink like half a can of Pepsi at the aid station and then get going. It really helped pick me up with the caffeine and sugar.
That makes sense, yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. I didn't have two. Oh, I also had some Cliff Bars that I tried having just for something solid, but I did find like the density of them was kind of difficult.
Did like sit in your tummy funny, or just like to eat it?
Just more eating it. I didn't feel like eating it. Whereas eating like the watermelon was a lot easier, but obviously has less calories.
So after hearing all this and going through it, would you do another ultramarathon again?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I would do this course again. I don't think we didn't really talk about.
No, I was gonna ask you in a second.
Oh, we're getting to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I would definitely like to do another 100 kilometers again. I think I'm definitely like capable of doing it. I think I would just need to plan more and find a course that sort of has more of an experience that I'm looking for. So I definitely like to be running more. Yeah. And this course, a lot of it just wasn't really runnable, or it was so difficult that running was you were just wasting energy. Like the waste of energy wasn't worth the amount of time that you were gaining. Yeah, I would definitely look for something a bit more runnable, maybe with an organization that's a bit more organized. And I think that would have like a better experience.
this leads into the question, why wouldn't you do this race?
Yeah, so the biggest issue I had on the day was on the second ascent, and so again, it's an out and back, so I knew I would be coming, every ascent would be a descent on the way back. The second big climb had this very, very steep, like it seemed almost vertical section, and there were ropes tied, you know, from tree to tree, so you could sort of pull yourself up.
Yeah.
However, half the ropes were broken. So it was really difficult to climb up. I had to kind of like dig my feet into the dirt and like go step by step and like grab onto tree to tree. Then after that climb, I was just thinking on the way out and the way back, I was like, how am I going to do that going down in the dark? I just thought it wasn't going to be safe. And then when we got all the rain, and then the trails just turned to mush and there was like barely any traction, I was just thinking like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that descent safely. And so that was really one of the biggest reasons that I decided to pull the plug at that aid station.
That just seems unacceptable that, you know, they obviously had gone through this course and marked it with these like flags, right, through the course.
Yeah, so actually that's one thing that was really great was they had these little pink flags with reflective parts, so you could see it in the nighttime too, and it was really well marked. They were about every, you know, sometimes they were like every 10 meters.
That's great.
So it was really easy to find the way around. So someone had clearly been around the whole course marking it, but there are like bridges that had broken railings. There were broken steps on like the sort of wooden staircases. So like the course just wasn't maintained. And I think like the course organizers saying, oh, like it is a difficult course and it is with that kind of elevation, but there's a difference between a difficult course and a dangerous course. And I definitely thought that parts of it were dangerous.
Which is unacceptable. You pay all this money and you do all this training, and then to not even have the course like set you up in a way that's safe, like that seems unacceptable to me as a race. If I was a race director, I think that would be like one of my number one like concerns is safety for the runners. And like I think how many people dropped out, like over half, like
yeah,
it's like easily.
I think I can only remember the numbers, but for the 100-kilometer group, males, like I think 17 dropped out and 11 finished or something like that. So you're looking at over half of the field not finishing.
I was really frustrated at that, is being we spent all this time and, you know, money going to this place and they just couldn't even be bothered to, you know, make sure that the course was safe. And, you know, like, yeah, it's hard, but as you said, there's a difference between safe and hard. Do you have any advice for people who may want to do an ultra themselves?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing would be like really research the course and what kind of trails you're running on, and make sure that it's going to give you the experience that you're looking for. I think that's the biggest thing, but also I think it was a good experience. Like I'm glad I did it, and I sort of realized what it takes and how, you know, I might prepare differently. Like I didn't really do any training for it. I just banked on the fitness from the marathon I ran like 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah,
3 weeks. Yeah. So and that did work. Yeah, it just wasn't what I was expecting in terms of like being able to run. I definitely think though there are ultras that do have more of what I'm looking for, so I'll be looking for those when I do one next.
Yippee! I think I'll just be the bystander, or I'll be the bag lady and watch you run an ultra. Maybe one day. Thank you, Liam, for spending your time and sharing your experience with myself and with you guys. I know I really found it interesting, and yeah, it's just a whole different world than road racing, so I found it fascinating, and yeah, maybe one day I'll do one, but it was really cool to hear your thoughts, and I'm glad that you survived.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you.